Welcome back, my gorgeous, good-looking friends. This is the final review for episode 3, and we're going to pick right back up with the other narrative that they're trying to spin within this mockumentary, which is covering her family and their behavior. This episode took a considerable amount of time to address, almost bullet by bullet, the defamation claims that Samantha has put in her lawsuit, almost as if this is going to be part of her defense next year. In Samantha's lawsuit, a main bullet point that Samantha has legitimate grounds on defamation is the claim Meghan states of being an only child on the Oprah interview. I keep saying this over and over, but the strategy and the consistent theme throughout the first 3 episodes here is their attempt to blame the media for the reason why they're having all these problems. Their failures, in Meghan's eyes, is not a result of their bad behavior and lies, but it's because of racism. And Meghan makes a very racist assumption seen here.
The UK media, I truly believe, wanted my mom's side of my family to be the ones that all this drama could be stirred up with.
And you notice how this sneaky witch tells it in a way where she doesn't outright say that it's because of her mom's side being black. It is implied, and the viewer is to draw that conclusion with a little help from the subliminal message that they showed right before Meghan makes this statement by flashing this imagery.
Classy and quiet in there, and then you have the other side of my family that is just...
And she knows what she's saying is racist, too.
Acting differently.
The thing that I noticed with Meghan is that when she tells these lies, she implies things, but doesn't directly come out and say it, leaving the audience to draw their own conclusion, which she's helped along the way. In this situation, she is outwardly calling her dad's side of the family trash without actually having to say it, doing a compare and contrast when she just refers to Doria as classy, quiet. Well, what's the opposite? What's different of that? That's trash.
My half-sister, who I hadn't seen for over a decade, and that was only for a day and a half, suddenly it felt like she was everywhere.
I don't know your middle name. I don't know your birthday. Coin me Princess Pushy.
So what Meghan is failing to tell everybody is that she could have stopped all of this by simply responding back to Samantha when the news broke that she was dating Prince Harry. Now, Samantha had been swarmed by paparazzi and journalists. Samantha had tried to contact Meghan to talk to her about the swarm of paparazzi, and after months of making numerous attempts to Meghan to try and explain to her what had been happening and get some guidance on how to handle the press, Samantha succumbs to a journalist from The Sun who she had established some kind of trust. And unfortunately, that journalist took advantage of her and published this Princess Pushy article in which he misinterpreted the things that she was saying. It was natural and understandable that Samantha was in reactive mode, considering that she's been making attempts to talk to Meghan, and surely this could have been resolved had she just called Samantha back. All of this drama could have been avoided, but Meghan saw at that time the opportunity to completely cut Samantha off. It was the same thing with her dad. Meghan was just looking for just one reason to justify what she was doing. This was always in the plan. So as part of the plan to corroborate Meghan's story, enter in Doria!
I was absolutely stunned that Tom would become part of this circle.
So for Doria's first appearance, she doesn't look so good right now because she is lying through her teeth. Thomas Markle had been in communication with Doria up until even after the wedding. So what, both of them don't have any forgiveness for a man who pretty much gave everything to both of them?
Certainly as a parent, it's not your... No, that's not what you do. Not parenting. And Meghan and I left when she was 2.
Doria is absolutely responsible for why this happened the way that it did with Thomas Markle and Samantha Markle. Samantha was very clear in her book about how Doria never really liked Samantha. In Samantha Markle's book, The Diary of Princess Pushy's Sister, she talks about how sensitive she was to mentioning the divorce around Meghan. But she then says, while we were tiptoeing around trying to be considerate, I didn't think Doria was. Something about the idea of our blended family lasting and the way I hoped things would be. I should have listened carefully when we were at our house in Woodland Hills, and she mentioned the name of her company as being the Three Cherubs, rather than the Five Cherubs, which would have appropriately included my brother and I, since she moved into our lives. While my brother and I were accepting of her as family, thinking that there was a future and a normal family life together, we were apparently mistaken. I decided that I would be patient and see what happened. Things never got better. Meg was my sister, and I figured I could have a normal sisterly relationship with her apart from any relationship with Doria. I knew then that if she grew up to be like her mom, we probably wouldn't get along. I was hopeful, though, that she would be her own person and we could maintain a bond. One of the very first videos that I did when I started making content was about my assessment and honest opinion on Doria. The reason why I pulled it down was because YouTube at times does not like the AI voice, but in this case, I think we'll be okay. Take a listen.
This is strictly my opinion of what I have read from reputable sources and observations made over the past 4 years about Meghan Markle. Meghan Markle is not a happy woman due to insecurity that has existed her whole life. We repeatedly point the finger at Meghan Markle's dad for being at fault for Meghan's sense of entitlement, as a result of giving her everything she wanted growing up. I don't doubt that he adored and loved her, as there are many photos and videos of the two that indicate it. Thomas Markle believed that his nothing special daughter was the most beautiful and talented girl in the world. I believe Harry's wife turned out the way she is, not because of her father's influence. It's possible that Meghan's narcissistic personality was learned from Doria. I believe Meghan struggled accepting her family background and culture, as well as who she is as a person. She chooses to fabricate false narratives to create a picture that would convince herself of being something she is not, in order to feel or be happy. As a result of the public lies Meghan told directly from her mouth, she has proved herself to be a pathological liar with a narcissistic personality disorder. I believe when Meghan wrote the letter to Congress and wrote the paragraph about the Sizzler salad bar, her make-believe narrative had an underlying truth to it. It is well known that Meghan's parents divorced when she was 6 years old. In 2018, her half-sister, Samantha Markle, publicly stated Doria was not around a lot during Meghan's youth. It appears that the fantasy narrative painted was what Meghan wished her childhood had really looked like. I will bet there was a good amount of dysfunction in Meghan's childhood. For whatever reason, Doria chose herself over her daughter and was absent from raising her. There is a striking contrast in how comfortable Meghan acts with her father than she does with her mother. In this video taken after one of her school theater performances, Meghan appears to be uncomfortable and anxious when she comes to greet her mother. Notice Doria's tone. It sounds forced, and she didn't even look at Meghan to make it somewhat feel genuine. Meghan's body language, seen here with her mom, appears like she's uncomfortable, tense, and anxious. Perhaps Meghan always has felt the need to show her mother she was worthy of her time and approval. Perhaps Meghan wanted to have a relationship with her mother, but maybe Doria's narcissism caused Meghan's insecurities. One would think that if Doria was the kind, empathetic, harmonious woman as described, she would have encouraged her daughter to make peace with her father, allowing him to be there for his daughter on such a special day. Instead, Doria was in focus and full view. It's odd that she is the only one who has access to the couple and grandchildren. Could it be she prefers it this way as well? Meghan is not the strong feminist as she claims. She wants you to believe this narrative, but slipped and admitted her insecurities in her lifestyle blog, The Tig, in 2014. There is an identity problem and she is not comfortable in her own skin. She struggles with authenticity and is unable to embrace her true self because she doesn't like that narrative. As an actress, she pretends to be anyone she wants, as long as it suits her agenda.
I believe the reason why Meghan can lie so much is because she has the support of her mother. Any child who has a parent who seemingly abandoned them as a child or wasn't particularly present in the way that they wanted from a nurturing perspective We'll definitely try to appease them. We'll try to do things to gain approval. And I think in this situation, this was one of those things. It doesn't matter how old Meghan is, she will always feel that in some way she just was not good enough. Going back to the footage that I showed a few moments ago where Doria was at Meghan's school play, she's like, that was nice, doesn't even look at her, doesn't say great job. There's no validation that she was proud of her, and that does play into her insecurities because she's constantly trying to do things to keep the approval of her mother. It's the primary source of why she's so gung-ho about her blackness all of a sudden. From what I gather in their history, the closeness that Meghan had with her mother really only began after she started to make it in Hollywood and started to make some money. It's clear that Meghan sees money and materialistic things as indicators of worth and value. This relationship with superficial things is an indicator that the parents also valued that as well. I would be curious to know as to what was the decision to send Meg to an all-Catholic girls' school when they themselves were not practicing Catholics. In Samantha's book, she points out of the time when she started to notice Meghan had changed. And she writes, I knew that teenagers go through personality changes, but I didn't think she would be so mean to our father. At that time, she did a little video with her friends claiming that she was not getting along with her dad. It's not that they were not getting along, but rather that she had issued an outrageous demand that he quit a production because she said so. I couldn't believe that she would have such disrespect for our father when he had been supportive of everything she did. He was paying for Meg to go to a great private school, and instead of showing gratitude, she was belittling and controlling. It was the first time I saw her throw a fit when she could not have her way. Dad had no idea that the whole thing was a snapshot of the future. Indeed, it was. Samantha then shares her opinion about the Catholic school, where she says, I thought that going to a Catholic all-girls school would be a great place to develop a moral conscience. Although my dad and I were baptized in the Episcopal Church, I had never seen the spiritual side of my sister, so it was good to know that she was in a Christian academic environment. And whether or not she chose to be devoted to any one religion was up to her, but at least she had the exposure. I thought being in an all-girls Catholic school would have a softening effect on her. Personality is not all nature or nurture, but there were probably influences outside of Dad's reach and school that shaped her personality. Now, this is the important part of all of this. It says, I wondered why I never saw Doria go to church. It would have been nice if we were a church-going family, but even my dad believed that religion is in the heart and something very personal. So he didn't force the issue on any of us. I was looking at it all wrong and assuming that being in a religious environment would increase the likelihood of empathy or compassion. I was trying not to judge her, but it didn't make any sense. And that's exactly that. Meghan was put in that school not because it was to instill good values, it was because there is opportunity, especially being around a whole bunch of rich people. And that should have been a question asked of Thomas Markle as to who made the decision to send Meghan to a school that costs so much money if they weren't practicing Catholics. Now, fast forward to the present, Doria is full on in Meghan's life and on Meghan's payroll. From an outsider looking in, Doria definitely sees Meghan as an extension of her. Meghan's success is Doria's success, and Meghan knows that if she pays Doria, she's going to stick around and not abandon her again, or at least the fear of having her abandon her again. Also, by paying her mom, she then asserts the control, as opposed to Doria then asserting control. Remember, in episode 2, Doria flat out states that she has not forgotten the fact that Meghan considered her like a controlling older sister. Now, going back to the episode, this false narrative that Meghan and her mom spin tries to convince the audience of Samantha being the equivalent to a stranger, in which Meghan had almost zero contact with her while she was growing up.
I don't remember seeing her when I was a kid at my dad's house, if and when they would come around.
So again, this idiot keeps digging herself further into a hole, so she doesn't remember and never saw Samantha when she was growing up. She wrote this email to Jason Knopf where she bulleted saying, Meghan saw them a handful of times when she was under the age 5, then again when she was 11 years old. She didn't see her half-sister again until her father asked her to attend Samantha's graduation in New Mexico when Meghan was 22 years old. She saw her for one day and hasn't seen her since. But she failed to mention that Samantha and Meghan used to talk on the phone.
You are a liar! No, I'm not.
I hadn't had a fallout with her. We didn't have a closeness to be able to have that. And I wanted a sister.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
To further stick the knife in her sister's back, Meghan then uses Samantha's daughter to manipulate the audience into thinking that Samantha gave up her child, thus validating the email that she sent to Jason Knopf, where she detailed in bullet points that Samantha was a bad mother and that she had to give up custody of all 3 of her children. This was the same Jason Knopf email that was sent by Meghan where she slut shames her sister, in which she says she had lost custody of all 3 of her children from different fathers, and though the press had been back briefed about the non-relationship with Meghan, they continued to give her media opportunities. And guess what, guys? This is going to come right back up in the next 3 episodes where she is alluding to the fact that the palace fed her to the wolves. This is all going to tie into supporting her claims in her defense because this is mentioned in the lawsuit. This is all going to tie into supporting her claims in her defense because this is mentioned in the lawsuit. Like in this example.
I just remember my dad saying to me, Samantha found her daughter. And I was like, oh, if you have her email address, I want to email her.
Do you know how foolish Meghan sounds? She's making it seem like Samantha gave up her firstborn child in adoption to people that she didn't know. Found her? Why would she have found her? She knew where she was this whole entire time with her parents. Meghan not only looks, but also appears to be coming across insane. I highly doubt the story went down like that. It's highly probable that it was Ashley who emailed Meghan first, not the other way around. Can we get a fact checker on this one? The biggest whopper, though, for this scene was explaining why Meghan didn't invite her dearest niece, Ashley, to the wedding.
With Ashley, the guidance at the time was to not have her come to our wedding.
You lying snake!
I was in the car with H, and I called her and I had her on speakerphone, and we talked her through what guidance we were being given and why this assessment was made. And
This woman is the worst liar on the planet. Talk this through? What's there to talk through? I mean, if this was real, you can't come to the wedding. The queen said so. Boom, done. What is there to talk through? Stop making it sound so dramatic and as if you're like talking to a hostage. But in any case, Samantha puts this lie on blast.
And by the way, what you're saying is completely correct, Samantha, because I've spoken to lots of my own royal sources as well, and they were always very clear. They never told Meghan who to invite to her own wedding. She had full control over that. But what she wants to do is blame the courtiers so she doesn't have to own her own decisions.
And that's painful.
Doesn't look like she's that upset. Anyhow, she did Samantha dirty here. Another part of this episode was quickly addressing Harry's racist past. They then had the Black historians talk about how they thought Harry was a certain way, but then watching him grow with Meghan, they've pretty much forgiven his racist past. So they allowed Misan to speak for a little bit about his thoughts around the privilege, and it kind of clicked for me when I heard this.
Harry, he was not too dissimilar to a lot of the boys I went to school with. You know, they were in an echo chamber of absolute privilege that afforded them to live a very particular life.
It's clear these anti-monarchists and BLM supporters are extremely envious of seeing that kind of privilege. Look at what BLM did. They took a lot of money from people just so they could live a lifestyle that they're so envious of. This next scene had me laughing. This was taken last year, November, when they came to New York and they went to New Jersey to visit that military base. And here, Harry's getting some kind of medal or coin or something for God knows what. And Meghan's standing there, and you can tell she's like, where's my prize? To make her feel special, they give her some type of coin, which she tossed in some fountain somewhere.
So this coin comes from the 108.
Like Meghan really cares. Just make sure you get it on camera. This is to show how Meghan is awesome at nothing. This is the layup then to show them on the couch expressing their compassion for the causes that they pose for. You can actually see the competitiveness between Meghan and Harry sitting on that couch over who is more fulfilled in the work that they're doing or posing for. Meghan gets annoyed that Harry interrupts her pontificating.
That felt great because I'd been doing that on my own for so long.
Harry sees her stealing the conversation and failing to include him by making it just about her.
That was the thing. What she was already doing, what I was already doing, that sort of came together.
That was the thing. What she was already doing, what I was already doing.
She was not happy about that, considering that Harry has been doing charity work way longer than she has, and he managed to take that moment away from her.
And this sort of beautiful.
But then right after that, look at Meghan's face of disgust when Harry mentions the word matrimony.
Matrimony.
It's almost like she resents being married to him.
Meghan was more of an activist.
Keep telling yourself that. The other highlights, essentially repeating the Oprah interview, which are lies.
There's no class in some person who goes sit like this, cross your legs like this, use this fork, don't do this, curtsy then, wear this kind of hat. Doesn't happen.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
So now we're back in New York City, back to November 2021. And I find this shot quite interesting because they're showing the Trump World Tower, which is a very luxurious building. But in reality, there's two buildings right below it that you can't really see, but they're there. That's where they were actually staying, and that is the UN Plaza apartments. Again, another manipulation to make you think that they're so fabulous. Not sure why the Harkles felt that this was going to be interesting for people to see, especially since this dress was so hideous. But even more tragic to see that she had people come and it was custom tailored to her, and it was still so ill-fitting. I am convinced that there's a funhouse mirror in her head, because what other explanation is there? So let me give you some context. New York's treasurer, Cindy Adams, wrote in the New York Post back in 2021 about this particular situation. And she writes, Markle, and this is the title, Markle, all for the op. The former Miss Markle, who gave the back of her hand to her father, her once best friend, her prince of a husband's relatives, and gave the finger to Her Majesty the Queen, now springs only for publicity and lawsuits. In NYC, to make a film about themselves, she and her princelet sponged, aka grift, at 860 UN Plaza. No neighbors witness Sparkle Markle hauling out the garbage or lumbering in and out. The freebie place belonged to lawyer Barry Bloom, who once worked for Lowe's and the Tisches. So commoners couldn't actually see this body she knew how to work. She slept up and down on a freight elevator. Mimi Markle's become a specialist in the department. Nobody in England wants to see her either. So remember, this gala was on the 10th. So the day before was when the court exposed that Meghan and Harry lied. Do we think that these two are manic? Harry doesn't look so spunky like how he did before, and Meghan is like, nothing is wrong, not a care in the world, having fun.
Most of the time that I was in the UK, I rarely wore color. There was thought in that, to my understanding. You can't ever wear the same color as Her Majesty if there's a group event. But then you also shouldn't be wearing the same color as one of the other more senior members of the family.
So why wear a color that was not part of the scheme that was required for you? Instead, she wears this puke, I don't even know what to call it, color. Sure doesn't look like you're blending in the background. Let me fix this photo. Oh, that's so much better. Well, doesn't it look like they're filming inside the palace?
And then suddenly they were saying he was in the hospital. It's like, what's going on? Please just pick up the phone. Like, what's going on? We're not mad. Just please pick up the phone. Like,
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
calling.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
Even once it was said in the media, I just kept calling. We need to know what's going on. I don't understand what's going on. Are you okay? What hospital are you at? I mean, all of us. We're just trying to understand what was going on.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
And then someone texted back on his phone.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
I was like, he's never called me Meghan in any day that I've lived on this planet. Meg. All my friends call me Meg, and my parents call me Meg. And I was like, that's not my dad.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
So then we knew that his phone had been compromised.
It's lie upon lie upon lie.
Of course, it's incredibly sad what happened. She had a father before this, and now she doesn't have a father.
Stop it. Get some help.
The very last piece that I want to talk about is going to transition us into the next 3 episodes. This, my friends, is the foreshadowing, and I will bet that we're going to see an attack on Jason Kanoff. They put his photo here, and Harry starts talking about the comms team. And remember, in the trailer, Meghan says, they fed me to the wolves. So she's out for blood, and she's going to go after Jason Kanoff. And it's going to get ugly, in my opinion. Don't be surprised if she calls him racist.
There is an aspiration for a controlled narrative.
Our comms team at that time was joined with my brother's office. So in total, there was only one person really dedicated to us.
And this is where we are right now. I do have a suspicion that they're going to put the blame on this guy, and they're going to make up more lies. So I wouldn't be surprised if this really lights a match and does trigger the family to release the bullying report. I mean, we can hope. But anyhow, this concludes the 3rd episode of the first half of this series. Can't wait for the next 3 to drop. I will be back soon with another review video, but until then, turn on your notification bell buttons. Today, I'm going to end this video a little differently. Today, we lost a really talented and amazing dancer. I'm just so choked up over it. I don't know him, but I feel like I know him. He was a well-known, popular dancer from the show So You Think You Can Dance on season 4, and I was a big fan. And then during COVID, him and his wife and his children would do these awesome little dances. And it was one of the few that I followed, actually. And he just brought so much light. Just saddens me to know that this light is no longer there. So I thought I would just share some of the joy he gave people whenever he danced. He was a real gift. Let's keep his family in our thoughts today. Thanks.
Freeze dance. When the music stops, you freeze. Okay, let's jump. Now freeze.
These stars, I feel you elevate. I feel you revive. I feel like
Side to the left. Crisscross, turn around. Crisscross, turn around. Now go down low, now go down low.
baby, I'm so into you. Darling, if you only knew all the things that flow through my mind. But I'm really hot. Let me holler at the DJ. Come on, DJ, put the record on every.